All right, you're live.
Okay, planning board Tuesday, June 6, 2023 at 6:45 PM. Call the meeting to order, please.
So motion?
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Tonight we'll do a roll call, starting on the right-hand side.
No, you have to make the motion
No,
to go
motion
into
to-
executive session.
Motion to go into executive session.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
No,
You
have to read
you gotta
that
read
paragraph.
the notice that says why you're going into executive session.
I thought that was next.
Oh, okay,
That was, okay. This will be my first executive session,
That's
so
all right.
excuse me, folks at home. In accordance with the Mass General Law, C-30A, Section 21A3, this is to discuss a strategy with respect of litigation if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining and litigating position of a public body and a chair so declares. The Groveland Planning Board will hold an executive session on Tuesday, June 6, 2023, beginning at 7 p.m. at 183 Main Street, Groveland, to discuss litigation with respect to Zon Yang and Robert Williams versus the Town of Groveland Planning Board. Et al. Civil Action Number 2177CB 00881. That'll be continued in a public hearing on the remainder of a matter of 301 Main Street for site plan review and a special permit of the parking waiver. Item number 4 will be discussion regarding zoning changes for the town meeting 2024. Oh, yeah, that's it.
That's
You
it.
just-
I'm ahead of myself.
right.
So motion.
All in favor?
No, you gotta do a roll call now.
Oh. Again, I apologize, folks. This is
That's
the
all right.
first one.
John Stokes. Dennis McNulty. Chris Goodwin. Chris Goodwin, aye.
Jason Naves, aye.
Walt Sorensen, aye.
Brad Legals, aye.
Okay. And will you, you're coming back out into open session after?
Correct, so we're gonna go off right now into executive?
Right.
Okay. We're going off with the executive now?
Yep, 1 second.
Are we doing that here or someplace else?
We're back conference room.
We'll be back, everybody. Okay, welcome back. Groveland Planning Board meeting on Tuesday, June 6th,
But she's not right on the
2023.
decision.
And the executive session is over. I will
Beef, like, just.
open the regular meeting here at Town Hall at 7:17 p.m. A motion to open the meeting.
So motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, tonight we have continued hearing on the matter of 301 Main Street for site plan review and special permit and a parking waiver. Does, Bob, would you like to speak? Sure. Please come and say your name, address.
I'm Bob Williams. My address is 180 Main Street, Groveland. And I'm here about the former gas station at 301 Main Street. I was asked to bring a full presentation again, as some of the board members had not seen the original, and just make it a little bit easier, and I've done that. Starting with the renderings, which is basically a cleanup of the existing building. And there's a couple of different views. We're trying to dress it up, clean it up, get the glass out of the way that's broken and so forth, and make it less of an eyesore down there, clean up the landscape around it, give it a little facelift. The interior, we do have plans to utilize in a different fashion. We did this plan before we had another space available that served as a lot of storage and warehousing space. We now have a couple thousand feet in Haverhill that we're using. So we have less demand for this area, but I have not altered the plan just for convenience at this point. But we're looking at the showroom, which is really a conference-type room. We're looking at that as the opportunity to have our customers come in, meet with us, make final decisions, look at products and samples if we need to generate them for them, and go through that. And then our main office, which would be where we keep our systems with all our computers, files, and take care of our general day-to-day business. And then we're going to put in a handicap bathroom, and we had even included a laundry area because we have drop cloths that we need to clean every once in a while because nobody likes to shake out the dust on the carpets when we come in. And then the rest of this was listed as workshop space and material storage and vehicle loading base. All right, I have 3 vehicles registered to the company, and what we're looking at there is present situation. We have 2 projects running where we had vanities that showed up well in advance of bathrooms being done. We needed a place to store them without them being in harm's way on the job site or underfoot. So this is the type of material that we would do into that space. We've got some tile for another project that we're waiting on. Because of material availability and resourcing things, we need to harvest this stuff when we can get it so that we can complete a job in a timely fashion for our clients. And then the garage doors here, you can see that we've taken one of the bays and we've incorporated it into what we've got listed as a showroom. That would be a cement block wall that would separate that, give a fire separation. This would allow me to have my computer equipment for our estimating and our book work and the rest of it without sawdust, without any kind of mess, and make it a good environment for it. And also, it's close. I can walk to that space from where I'm living. And I have a girl that tentatively is even closer than that would be in a couple hours. So we're looking at a couple of days a week that somebody may be in there for a long period of time. And generally, that's the weekends. That's me doing payroll and that type of thing. We're looking at accessing this early in the mornings and at the end of the day if we need to. And in many cases, because we have the warehouse space in Haverhill, we have less need to do that. So this is more of a supplemental space at this point. This is the site plan. And this is broken down to 10 parking spaces. The requirement is 19. And physically, you couldn't fit 19 cars in that space. We've got it as well as we can configure here. The question that was raised is, are we going to have material deliveries going in there? And that raises a safety issue. And I think there's a misunderstanding about deliveries. When we're talking about bringing things in and out of there, we're talking about a daily use on our part. If we have to do that, not necessarily a lumber truck or a sheetrock delivery or a cabinet delivery coming in on a regular basis. That's not the type of thing that we're going to be storing there. That stuff goes to the job site generally. And like I say, if we have a vanity or a countertop or something like that that we need to bring back to keep safe, we generally would bring it out on our own vehicles from the job site, store it at the end of the day, and make it available when we need it to bring it back. And then there are just some notes. We're going to do some exterior lighting and get that upgraded. There's the continuous concrete block firewall from floor to ceiling that we would create to separate the storage type space from the office space. And then the interior, there's just a couple of sections here to show that, desk, bathroom, basic office space. So we're asking for a parking reduction in order to make this viable and be able to bring back that area in a way that, when you come into the center of Groveland, isn't an eyesore anymore, and actually is a viable building that can generate a tax base for the town. Do you have any questions for me?
Anybody from the board want to start?
I'll go. Speaking to the outside of the building, can you speak specifically to your plans, to what you're planning to do to the outside to as far as repairs and improvements to the area?
Well, we have a roof situation that was patched. That needs to be repaired at the back end of the building. And that's probably best if I bring up the floor plan here. Back in this area of the building, over the bathroom area, there's some wood damage there. It's had a patch to keep it from getting any worse, but that needs to have a structural repair in that area. As far as the outside of the building, some of this glass will probably be changed out. We probably will do something that is a little more privacy factor in those bays for the storage areas. But in this area here will probably be more storefront area. The glass that's in these areas that exist already is broken in some cases. That needs to be repaired and replaced. The signage that's there will re-illuminate, and we'll put our signage up. We intend, clean up the outside of the building, go around the perimeter, get the shrubs knocked down and make it so that you can see the building. Add some lighting so that it's safe at night and makes it a little easier to get in and out of the building. And we're going to take that brick facade and clean it up with a coat of paint, probably. At this point, the outside was really in fairly reasonable shape. There is a metal door that leads in from the outside that needs to be replaced, but really minimal impact on the outside.
Right. You mentioned lighting. Do you have a specific lighting plan in mind?
No, I haven't done that. We hadn't gotten to that point yet because we don't actually know that we're going to do anything here yet. So we haven't run it by the engineers and the electrician to get any numbers or any of that. We have a general budget for lighting, but we know that there's some lighting that's not working. We also know that we're going to rearrange some lighting on the interior.
That's interior and exterior?
Interior and
Because you
exterior.
spoke to lighting for the safety concerns, right?
I'm sorry?
Because you had spoken about lighting for the safety concerns, so I'm assuming that's exterior?
What I want to do is I
Protect the
want to
roofs,
make
yeah.
sure that underneath the canopy area that comes out, that, safe passage in and out of there. But even if it's some low-level outside lighting, just so it illuminates the outside of the building for safety factor and
about
security.
Sorry. What about parking lot lighting for safe entrance and exit out of when we're talking about December? We have, it's 3:30
Well, I
to
mean,
start.
there is nothing planned for parking lot lighting. I'm a tenant. I'm looking at the building at this point. I'm not looking at the general lot. I am dealing with the parking situation because it was a requirement to be here. So I've, done the engineering on the parking in order to get it to the 10 spaces. And at this point, I'm looking at cleaning up this particular building and some illumination underneath the canopy if I have to make it so that I've got good visibility on those poles that are there for anybody coming in and out, and so that I don't have somebody driving through the glass in the front trying to back in and out of there.
We're also looking at it as a health and safety issue too, around the building perimeter. Once you start upgrading, you're probably it's gonna be more on sand, but lighted exit signs.
But that's part of the fire code anyhow, and we'd have to have that as part of this building requirements, go with code.
But in the interest of health and safety, and, if we do decide to be favorable on this, we're gonna get some outside parking lighting for safety be installed.
But you have the right to ask for those conditions.
So the engineers didn't do a lighting plan?
I have not spent unnecessary expenses on something that's a maybe at this point, Walter. Quite honestly, I can spend all sorts of money to come in here and still have you guys say no. And even if you say yes tonight, I still have to go through the DOT to find out whether we get approval to get in and out of the property. So this is a bootstrap
That won't be
situation.
part of the planning board, so that's gonna be, outside the realm.
I know, but I can't go to the DOT for that unless I get an approval here. So I have not done a lot of unnecessary stuff. I've got to cover one piece of ground and get over one hurdle first before I can worry about the next hurdle in front of me.
As far as landscaping, Want to talk about the landscaping
Is that
plan?
a condition? Well, the landscaping plan
Yeah.
is basically, it's mostly conservation land out the back. We can't really do much on it. There's some invasive species vegetation that's
also a
there.
dark sky.
I did speak to the Conservation Department. They recommended a local contractor that's good with dealing with that stuff, but it's basically clean it up, get it mowed, and get it under control, so it's not the overgrowth. And that's pretty much, you know, there's an old section of fence that was taken down, still some remnants of that. There's a tree that abuts the parking lot that was slated to come down. But even on the other side of the building, a lot of that stuff still has to be identified. That's not my forte. I need that local expert to come in and look at it and see what we have for a cost factor and where we have to draw the line, what we can touch and what we can't touch according to conservation.
Mr. Chair, can I just
Sure,
say one
go
thing?
ahead.
If you could show the site plan, if you could put the site plan up, and if you could walk through
Quality.
with the board exactly what you were just talking about with regard to the landscaping, and earlier you said removing some shrubs.
There's a shrub here, a tree, that was already spoken about being removed. When we first presented it, was brought up by the Conservation Commission, that they had recommended the removal of that and the fence that was there. There's also some growth that's tight to the building on this side for a tree and so forth that's really will do more damage to the building than anything else because of the root structure. And it's just a seedling that took root, and because it's been uncut, it's gotten a head start on everybody. This area here, we were gonna get it mowed and so forth, but I mean, most of this is conservation area back behind this building.
What about between the bridge and the building?
Well, between the bridge and the building, like I say, there's stuff that's in there that I need identified, but we still have to clean it up and make it so it can be mowed on a regular basis and just kind of maintained. One of the things, like I say, there's a tree that's somewhere just behind the windows on the building, about halfway down, that's real tight to the building, and like to get that out of there, because that's only going to do damage to everything. And it's a visual thing, too, lighting and so forth, trying to keep the building so that, you know, nobody's lingering down there, because that's a tight corner.
I'm not on the conservation board, but Annie, I think if it's you know, an interest of a damage to the building, I think it's allowable to come down, you know?
Yeah, it would most likely just be a very easy letter
trees
permit
that
that they would issue.
Any trees that pose, you know, safety and structural are allowable to come down. I'm not on the board, but
Again, I'm going to defer to what the Conservation Commission wants, and I'll gladly walk through it with them and make sure that whoever we bring in for a contractor to do that understands what the limitations are and will abide by them.
so basically, is there gonna be any more planting, mowing?
Well, we're going to mow, we're going to keep it under control. I mean, just weed growth and so forth. I don't even know what's there for grass, if anything, at this point, Brad, to be honest with you. It's been neglected for so long. You know, it could be nothing but weed. And I do know that somebody had spotted some invasive stuff. I don't know what they were looking at. I couldn't tell you, but I do know they mentioned it.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
So, and back on that page about the building,
With the rendering?
the rendering, we keep hearing that it's an eyesore to the town, but you're gonna beautify it, so.
On the side of the building, front of the building, yeah. Oh, one
We know the
beneath
roof
too.
has been changed, the manside roof has been changed. Your proposal is coat of paint?
We're going to do a coat of paint. This becomes more of an open glass. This becomes more opaque and gets cleaned up. Some of these probably will have panels that will disappear and get replaced completely. One of the things I had considered, but I hadn't made a decision on, is are those the right types of doors for what we need? Or are we doing something that's a vertical garage door that can slide in and around so we don't have the obstruction overhead if we have to bring in the large item or whatever. But it's just, again, it'll depend on what the obstacles are and what the cost is, or whether it's just we change this out and we do more solid panels and then do some light up the top, lights of glass, or whether we keep the lights of glass and we eliminate a row or two in order to make it so that the stones and the rest of the stuff that gets scattered from traffic and plowing and so forth doesn't end up taking out windows.
And the logo on the side, is that an actual, the logo on the side of the building, is that an actual plan, or is that? just for-
Well, I'd like to use the graphics, yeah.
I like it, I like it.
Yeah, we can do that a couple of different ways. We actually have a local artist that is willing to do something like that if we want to do something more permanent. The other way we can do it is we can always do it with a lighting situation.
Bob, on your plan, I only see
I
8
like that
spaces.
light idea.
Where are the other 2?
I see the,
They're calling one postal worker space here, and then you've got the handicap space.
So you're talking 10 spaces between the 2 buildings?
Right.
Okay.
I mean, it's a tough lot, no doubt about it. And I mean, the one thing that it has going for it is even during the traffic study that was done pre-pandemic, and we're about back to that capacity, it was only used about 60% of the time. 60% capacity is what they had rated it being used at. So,
Why don't we, anybody else before I move on to like parking lot and
Well, it pointed out that on the lighting plan, there's two types of lighting plans that I'm not seeing here. One is the actual site lighting, which follows our bylaw under, dark sky lighting. And then there's the actual building lighting, and you do have some lights on the building. Which, are those existing? What's your plan with those?
with the existing lighting, I got to see whether they're working, whether they're problematic.
No, I mean, you get them on a plan. Which is that?
I don't have any lighting.
It's on your graphics.
It's on the
it's-
elevation.
on the rendering, I think.
All the existing lighting all the existing doors to have lighted exit signs.
No, on the elevation, pull the elevation up.
is it the rendering?
I think the rendering, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right there.
Yes,
Right
you
there.
have
Right
some
there.
lighting underneath.
This here and under here. There's existing lighting there. I don't even know if it works, whether it's powered at this point. We haven't tested any of that stuff.
Mr. Chair, could I
Yes,
just
go
quicken?
ahead.
So, you're asking the board to make a decision based upon a presentation that you've just made to them, and you said, this is what we're going to do with the building. And I just, for clarity, for the board's sake, originally said you were going to replace the glass in those left 2 doors with opaque glass, and in the right door with clear glass, more like a storefront, right? And then you said you're going to do what's in front of everybody. But then you just presented that you might not put glass in those left 2 doors.
I'm saying-
Hang on,
and-
let me finish. That you might use something else. And then you also said you don't know about the lights, even though they're on the rendering. You might do something else, it depends on their work. The board needs to understand what they're approving and not approving. And so you've made a presentation to say that this is what you're approving, but then you've said it's not really what you're approving.
I have made a presentation of a concept. In reality, in the real world of construction, sometimes the concept is not something that can be accomplished because of code changes or physical restrictions. I have not tested those lights. I do not know whether they work. If they don't work, we will have to replace them or do something with them. I do not know what I have to do to the lighting until I test it and can find out whether it works.
When you're in this board, not the construction world, we need to know specifically that rendering is what we are voting on tonight. Not, it may or may not look like this when I'm done.
And it will-
When we come into a board, or when other people come into a board, you have a rendering, and you must, you're a contractor, you hear it all the time, stick to the plan. You have to stick to the plan.
And I am sticking to the plan. What I'm saying is I don't know whether those existing lights on that that are rendered here are actually existing on the building down there. So I don't know whether they're there or not.
There will have to be a lighting plan. I mean, that is part of.
Well, we can certainly generate a lighting plan. We did not know that was a requirement for this at this particular stage. It was a parking reduction in order to get a special permit.
It's a whole
So-
plan board.
So I'm happy to do that for you. I can get you a copy of a lighting plan.
On the matter of time.
And you have the right to ask for these things with a contingency, as I understand it. You can dictate that I need to provide an approvable lighting plan as part of this approval, or otherwise it goes away.
I'm sure the board knows what we, what we can put in there, what we can't.
All I'm saying is you have had this thing in front of you several times now, and I'm trying to explain it the best I can. I'm trying to make this as simple a process as I can for everybody. I'm not trying to make it overcomplicated. All I'm trying to do is bring business to the town, clean up the downtown area, and be able to have a place that I can separate my office space from my equipment and have a storefront capacity.
Okay. Besides the lighting plan, and it's odd that someone doesn't know the condition of the lighting of the building that's been there for so long. Somebody must have turned a switch on every now and then and been in the building. Have you been in the building?
I don't know if the power is even on in the building.
So we have a completely dead structure here?
Why would somebody be paying for electricity if there's nobody in the building?
Okay. So we really don't know the condition of the actual structure of the
Right,
building?
until I can
or the
physically
power
get in
or
there
the
and
lighting?
power it up.
All right, okay. And a landscape plan? Besides the stuff that you've mentioned, do you have a full-blown landscape plan?
No, I do not have a landscape plan,
Okay.
because I was told that, we were dealing with the building.
Well, that's part of the whole thing.
Part of coming to the plan board is
Yeah.
lighting plan,
Lighting plan, parking
parking
plan,
plans.
Worcester
waiver,
plan.
You know, your waiver on parking spaces.
Is that going to be the final rendition of that building? It's got, a vintage roof line on it, but it doesn't meet what you're trying to do to the building. I mean,
We're not changing the roof. The roof is
changing
there.
anything, so that whole,
That whole thing is staying,
it's
yes.
going to stay there.
Sounds like he's doing a repair on
Yeah.
the flat roof on top.
On a flat roof out the back, and it doesn't have that parapet that comes around it on the back. It slopes off and just is open out to the back side.
Did this building have a pit in it?
I'm sorry,
Did this building have a pit?
Does it have a pit?
A pit.
Still?
a pitch to the roof?
No,
No,
a pit.
Inside
Pit in the
building.
bays.
A well.
A well? No, there is one sunken section of the floor that's like 8 inches in concrete box step-down area,
All right. Okay.
but there's no well as to walk under a car
Yeah,
and do service, no.
yeah.
That
Okay.
pitched-in area, is it gonna stay? Are you gonna fill it?
Probably going to fill it, because it's going to be more of an obstacle for us than anything else.
Well, it's gonna be a safety issue
Yeah.
if somebody backs into it
Yeah.
and splits their head open.
Well, it's just walking across the floor. If you're walking backwards or you get something in your hands, it's a
If you
safety
got
issue.
something in your
yeah.
hand, it's a
Yeah.
safety issue. As far as parking lot, handicap, lines, improving paving,
I'll be working with the landlord in order to get that stuff accomplished.
but we have to know. We can't keep it a secret in the board. It's, again, part of what we look at.
Okay? So what do you need from me at this point?
We'd like to know, again, in the interest of health and safety, what the proposal is outside of the building with parking, with signage, with handicap. You're asking for a waiver, so we.
Right. And we've got it marked that we're going to mark a handicap spot down by the loading dock. We've got the postal workers site that will be designated for them. We will mark the pavement for those spaces that we've shown on the parking plan.
Will it be a repave of the lot? Will it be a top coat on the lot?
I am not paying for a top coat. I don't have plans to do that.
Does anybody, from what I could see from outside of the site, there was a pothole. I don't know if that's been filled, and that's, again,
Last time I walked it didn't seem terrific shape.
correct.
So we need a site plan for what you're actually going to do to the structure for parking, lines, handicap access. Is the building handicap access?
Building will be handicap access. We'll have a new 3-foot door that's actually going to go in. We'll have to increase the door size. The existing one does not meet code at this point. We're actually looking at utilizing this door over here to get that 3-foot handicap space. And we have no curb as we approach the building, so it's a straight walk-in. As far as the parking, we've got it designated on the site plan with the spots up here, the spots along here, postal worker, and the handicap spot over here.
There's a catch basin that's in the site, it's full. Is that gonna be cleaned up?
It'll have to be. It's only gonna cause problems for me if I don't clean it out, even if I gotta pull a lid off and get down there with a shovel. I mean, the bottom line is I need to protect my investment as well.
Bob, I appreciate you trying to bring, I like the fact of refacing the front of that building, and it's a great location for the town to kind of spruce it back up, because it is kind of an eyesore. I think the board just needs to make sure of what it's gonna kind of look like in the end in order before we can make a determination of the parking. And I understand where you're coming from is you don't want to put a bunch of time and effort and money into plans when you're not even sure if you're gonna get the parking permit. So I understand that part of it. A couple questions that I have. So how many employees do you have?
At present, I have 4 on the payroll.
And how many are going to be occupying the business during the day, during this site during the day?
This will be limited. I have a part-time administrative assistant, 2 days a week, a couple hours a day. And myself, I spend most of my time buried underneath the paperwork. And then it will be by appointment only for clients to come in. And I do have one salesman who may start to utilize this. And he's in a remote situation, so he does a lot of his right at the desk at home. But if he needs to meet with the client in order to go through samples and products and so forth, we would harvest that stuff. They have a sample
Okay, so
collection.
it'll be a
for him.
remote office,
Yeah.
not necessarily a
Yeah,
static office form, it
Yeah.
just be remote. So you have basically two employees, yourself, owner, and one employee,
Yeah.
and then potential, the client,
Yeah.
clientele, okay. The trucks that you have, you said you have 3 trucks.
Three trucks.
What kind of vehicles are they? Are they
I've got
flatbeds, are they,
I've got a 12-foot box truck, I've got a 10-foot box truck, and I've got a regular Econoline type van, utility van. Those, one I park at my place up on Main Street. The other 2 are in Haverhill, because everything that we really need for those is harvested and sorted on the shelves and stocked there, and they're picking them up when we need them and taking them.
is
And
that
they
where
don't
they would
all,
stay?
they don't always come out every day either, because we may not need them. It's easier for the guys to go right with their vehicles and go right to the job, and they have their own personal tools that they use anyhow.
Is that where they would stay in Haverhill? Would
Yeah,
Would they be
yeah.
any parking?
I have
there
no
for those
intention
trucks?
of giving up the Haverhill site. We spent a lot of time and trouble to get a 45-foot trailer truck emptied into that building, equipment sorted out and everything else. There is a couple of pieces of equipment that are there that come out so seldom that they're really taking up footprint for me that I could better utilize, and that may end up, like in this building, I've got like a dozen pieces of pipe staging that we seldom use. Can I take them and put them in here and get them out of the way, and if we ever need them, we could get them, type of thing. But for the most part, what we have in Haverhill is staying in Haverhill.
So you're saying that there would really be nothing in that site over 12,000 GVW?
No, I don't have anything that even hits that now, Brad.
No, I think the 12-foot box truck is probably 12,000 GVW.
May not be. I think it may be around 10.5 or something like that, but, all right. I can check.
So no trucks over,
Do you plan on using the back of the building at all? Where
no.
that overgrowth is? I mean, I
No, I-
walked it, it's pretty,
It's pretty flat and so forth, and I know the restaurant that had been approved before had talked about doing some paving and some seating back there. No, quite honestly, I don't want stuff.
you don't want to touch it.
I don't want a
Just clean it
dumpster
up.
there, I don't want, you know.
Clean it up.
Yeah.
can that
It's
potentially
easier to
be-
maintain if I don't have anything that adds to the clutter.
Could that be potentially gravel or stone and utilized for parking? To make the site?
I don't know whether conservation would allow that. That's the problem, Brad. You know, it's where that boundary is for conservation is pretty tight there. And they had asked about dumpsters and so forth, and I said we didn't have any plan to do that. The only time we would do that, is obviously, if we're going to do renovations on the building, and I would ask, if we had to keep it up underneath the canopy, or whether we could use the back, if it just makes more sense, just to access in and out while we're doing the renovations of the building.
It is a commercial site, so what are you going to do with trash?
We will get it, and we'll take it and put it in our dumpsters. We have dumpsters on every job site. Yeah.
Well, usually, generally, commercial site would have a
Yeah.
2-yard or a 4-yard.
I mean, the only problem with that is it becomes a public situation, because there really is no place to put it here that it wouldn't be, you know?
Fenced in, with a small wire fence.
I mean, it still becomes public access, because even if I put it over by the guardrail and so forth, you know, somebody coming along and driving stuff over the fence, you know?
What about stormwater runoff on the site? And if you are gonna do any kind of repairs on the site, what do you got for drainage plans?
Well, most of our work is going to be interior, so I mean, the stormwater is not necessarily an issue in that particular case. We've never had to do barriers for anything when we've done interior renovations.
Well, you've got parking that comes into play. Who is gonna be taking care of that? You know, everything from line painting to the lighting plan to the, if you have to do some paving out there to get things correct, there's gonna be runoff. Who's doing that?
We do that in-house, and we've never had a problem with that as far as,
Yeah, but you're submitting a special permit plan that this is gonna be affected by it. So if you start if you have to go in and repair the actual parking lot, okay, where's the pitch going and where's the runoff going with the river right there? What's the plan on that? That all comes part of a stormwater management plan and also for a parking lot plan for runoff.
I agree, and what he's saying is because you're gonna be utilizing parking that isn't really being utilized right now, you may have to do some kind of a Cape Cod berm in the back. And that, you know, under our guidelines and stormwater management to contain the water so it doesn't leave the site, you know. to
all
go
right,
into
well, I
river.
mean,
And to reutilize, I don't know where the catch basin is, but you probably wanna pitch everything back into the catch basin, and that's probably why it's there.
again, we have to clean up and find out where the driveway, the existing driveway is at this point, because it's had overgrowth and has been unmaintained. Yes, there may be a potential for that. We would have to do, you know, barriers, hay bales, or whether it's the snake or
We're
whatever.
talking Cape Cod berm over the pavement, the existing pavement, to contain stormwater management. And that probably should have been part of the plan that was submitted. Anytime you alter, you come in for a different use. Anytime you do improvements on the site, you do have to bring it up to what our standards are in the bylaws.
Okay? Not arguing that.
No, there's nothing to argue, it's just.
So who actually is maintaining this site as right now?
The landlord.
Aren't you both on the same application? Is that the landlord?
Before you, for this, he's actually the landowner. I'd be the tenant. Just like the post office is the tenant on the other side.
So this is your application only?
Yes.
Okay. So with it for special permit, you asked for a waiver on parking, but you don't have the parking plan. And that's why I brought up the drainage, and everything else that goes with it.
So as far as,
And a safety lighting plan, which we've talked about a bunch here already.
so as far as upkeep to the site ongoing, as far as upkeep to the, you know, to the back, to the greenery and to the parking area, will that be the burden on you as the tenant?
The burden on me as a tenant, yes.
Would you have to, you know, with the agreement with the post office, they have a loading truck that comes in and out of there 3 times a day. Have you spoke with, I mean, the landowner owning both, have you discussed it with the UPS, Postal Service on working back and forth? Because that is a
Well, we're not,
12-foot box truck that comes.
we're not in there in those times that generally that they would be there. So it really wasn't something that was going to interfere with them. We're generally going to be in and out of there before 7:30 in the morning, and they don't start until 9. The closest is the end of the day if we have something that has to go back there. They're usually there until 5.
Right.
And we're 4:30, but we knock off, but by the time we get back, it's pretty much 5 o'clock, so we're outside those windows of operation for them.
But have they been notified, like, have you talked to them?
No, because we
You don't
had-
want to talk, I shouldn't say
Yeah.
you, but,
We hadn't jumped the gun on that because
Okay.
we didn't know whether we were going to be.
okay.
Yeah.
Yep, understood.
So I think we talked about social economic needs served by the proposal, and traffic flow, adequacy doesn't apply, neighborhood character, social structures, impacts on natural environment, I think we covered that, potential fiscal impact to the town services and the tax base and employment, I think we touched on that. And, does somebody want to take over and talk about consistency of the town, community development plan and master plan? I'll just a little bit more privy on that than I am.
I certainly think this plays into the development of the square, to understand, right? One of the town's goals is to make the square a viable area with attractive buildings and businesses to really be, to your point, the welcoming point to the town as we go across.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
I'm sorry. I was saying, as far as how this is consistent with the town development plan and upcoming master plan, that the redevelopment of this building certainly plays into the master plan,
I think, because part of that plan is to redevelop, the square. So, because to your point, it is one of the welcoming points to the town, right? So having a redevelopment on that building would certainly play well into the overall plan there.
Yeah, I guess I'm not entirely convinced of that, only because this is not it's essentially a storage space in a private office with one by appointment visit per day. So I think that point could be a little, I think there's a key point of distinction there between this use and the restaurant, for example. And I wasn't on the board when the restaurant was approved, but you can see that, like, from an economic downtown development perspective, they're very different.
Agreed.
When we redid the Elm Park, and we've had substantial planning on the downtown area quite a few times, and there's still one underway at the moment that we're going. What year was that building put up, do you know? Rough guess. 60s, 50s?
That building's got to go back to the 50s anyhow, I would say.
The 50s? Okay, I'm gonna. As you know, more than a decade ago, the Elm Park was redone completely back to its historic look, complete with a clock, and all the elm trees in Elm Park, and that was a big grant, took a big project to go in that. And the pitch from planning and master planning then was to put a little more historical value and look back into the town. Matter of fact, there used to be a gas station actually across the street where that strip mall is right now, on that corner. Do you have any future plans to redesign the look of the building that may comply with some type of, because it is a focus point, you're at two state highway intersections right there, to maybe a little bit different look other than an abandoned gas station plan?
Would you like a Texaco sign from the 50s?
Yeah, then we put that back in there, right? Yeah.
I don't know, what do you want me to do, put in fake pumps and a gas sign? I don't know.
Well, that's,
I see
That would
where
be
you're going with
interesting.
it, but I think that's going to be a question for the owner and not the,
yeah. Well, I was just wondering, was there a future plan onto that? Because you just had mentioned that it's
Need to
basically an
keep it clean
abandoned
and
building.
Make it neat and be able, so that it's not an eyesore when you drive down either 97 or 113. I mean, and when you come across the bridge from Haverhill, you're not saying, what's behind all those bushes, with the broken glass?
well, you keep saying it's an eyesore, and when you peel back, your layers and show the building, it's going to be our responsibility to make sure that you keep talking about how beautiful it's going to be, and we just want to understand it as a perspective of as a board for the town, that we're not going to be sold a bill of goods. But we want to make sure that it's going to comply with what you're saying. and not just be signage.
I'm not physically changing the outside of the building. We may, in any major fashion. The door area is still glass door area. We may convert one section of glass door so that it's a different, more glass, more of a storefront. As I said, that's the physical change that we're looking at on the outside. We're not necessarily doing anything that would take an overhead door and replace it with a wall, or turning around and building another roof out over anything, or putting in columns and a palisade around the front of it. The building is what the building is. We want to clean it up and dress it up and make it functional.
I don't know for me that that's consistent with, enough with the vision that the master plan has for the Elm Park area. And that's my sticking point right now, is trying to understand like the social community benefit of this particular use case. Because what I'm, other than beautifying the building and cleaning it up, it's essentially very limited public access, one appointment a day. And the appointment is, 1.5 people that would be there. So I'm just trying to understand that.
Well, I'm trying to understand what you're actually wanting from me, because one, I'm hearing that we need parking.
We have criteria to go through
Well,
that warrant whether or not
but I'm
a
being told
special
that
permit can be issued.
there's 19 parking spaces required, and that you want a certain number of parking. At the same time, I'm being told, well, we don't want too many people going in there because it's a safety hazard. So I'm trying to play a balancing act here. And so I'm trying to make it so that, one, we're not creating traffic hazards, and we're not creating a nuisance in that area with vehicular traffic and a safety issue.
We're trying to understand and we're trying to dissect what you're saying. When somebody comes in with a plan, it's all there in black and white. Generally, the engineer will speak, but we know what we're looking at. We're looking at stormwater management. We're looking at a rendering, a concept. We're looking at sizes. We're looking at, what the use is gonna be, what the lighting's gonna be, what the plantings are gonna be. This is all indicative of how you come into a planning board meeting. And what I see is a rendering and an old site plan. And we're actually trying to help you here. But we also have criteria and a bylaw to adhere to. And that's what we're doing. We hear countless times of how bad that building looks. To me, it's just wallpaper right now. Would it be nice to have it back to better than it was? Absolutely, but you keep saying how bad it is, and you also keep telling us how great it's gonna be. So we're trying to get a better understanding. You talk about lighting, and you tell us it doesn't work. I'm gonna do something, but I don't know what it is. We talk about the interest of health and safety. In the parking lot, once you start with coming back into the board, taking a building that hasn't been operated in, 15, 20 years, there are different standards now than there were when that building was in operations. The code is generally for safety. And that's what we're trying to understand. What are you gonna do, or how do you propose to keep that parking lot safe? And we're just going with the guidelines that you're saying. We're not throwing anything different at you. We're just trying to understand what your proposals are.
And I'm trying to make it clear that we are intending to bring that building back to a usable space and comply with the applicable codes.
But that's not how you presented it in the last meeting or this meeting. You brought up a plan and you're like, look at it. It's gonna be fantastic. And then, when you actually ask how you're going to bring it to the beauty that you say it is, what you propose, you keep stepping back, like, this
I
is
have
an
not
existing
stepped
building.
back.
Let me finish, please. You keep saying that you're only gonna do what you have to do. And then when we ask the questions, in the interest of the town, you say, I'm only gonna do this, or I'm only gonna do that. I mean, we're just trying to get to the bottom of it, of how you're gonna handle it, so we can vote on this.
And I understand that, and I'm not stepping back. When I came in with the original plans. I came in with what I was told I would need, and I brought that information forward. We've kicked this can down the road 2 years, and I come in, and each time I come in, there's more criteria that's laid out on me or explained to me. I apologize for my ignorance. If I had known that stuff was necessary, I would have turned around and certainly brought it forward.
It's no secret, we have a bylaw. It's on the website. You can hire an engineer, like most people do. They come in with an engineer, they check the boxes of the bylaw.
Brad?
And it's voted on.
I'm sure that's applicable to everybody. And
You're
I
being held to the same standard as everybody else.
and quite honestly, if I had deep pockets, I could have been in here with a lawyer and everything else and gone through this, and he would have turned around and taken the lead on this, and I wouldn't have had to worry about it. I don't have those deep pockets. I'm a small businessman. I'm trying to help people improve their lives and improve their homes. I need a place in order to have an office space, and this is a viable building that's not being utilized, and it continues to be an eyesore in the center of town. I thought I was being helpful by coming in and offering a solution. Obviously, the opinion is different. You know, I'm not going away. I'll go back and get the stuff if you deny me. I'll come back with it again. I'm not going away. I've got a lot invested in this as far as time and my resources to walk away from this. All I want to know is, you know, am I going to be treated as equally as everybody else?
I think we've been.
You know?
Yes.
And I'll live with that. I mean, the thing that I'm seeing here is if we kick this thing down the can road for another 2 years, it's 2 more years that we live with an eyesore downtown, and nothing happens. If you approve this, I still have to get approval from the DOT. So I don't even know that I can do this until after I get through the DOT. I'm just trying to get to that hurdle where I can go and find out whether the DOT is going to say, you got a shot at this.
So, Mr. Chair, I think it was just part of what you were talking about of having a lot more detail in a plan, is most of the time when we are looking at someone's plan, it's the actual property owner that's working on their site, right? So he's not the owner, he's gonna be a tenant, and I haven't seen many tenants come in and say, okay, I'm gonna have a lot of, I haven't been on there that long. So I think Bob's trying to do his get in front of us, look at that, are we even gonna be able to get the parking spaces approved? I think that what we probably need to do is kind of go, as we did, started to hit all the criteria if he meets them or does not. If he does not, then we can say nay. If he does meet the criteria, then we have to add the conditions on it and kind of go from there. I think there are definitely some conditions because of the lack of detail that we don't have. So if we just put a lot of the conditions, so we do see those, and if there are any changes to the plan, that he has to come back in front of us. But that's my view on it.
In this particular matter, we have a time constraint. No, unlike proposals that come in that we could take 6 or 9 months to, you know, for them to get their ducks
We
in
can come
order.
up with those, we can approve the parking restriction permit that he's asking for, and then create conditions right now to be able to move forward and get those answers that we have in the future.
Let me just check with so what happens if we don't have a full-blown site plan?
So let's say the 3, or at least the 2 big issues that you have. You don't have a landscape plan, you don't have a photometric plan. Those go to your criteria relative to neighborhood character, right, for example. So you could condition the decision that prior to the pulling of any building permit or work on the site at all, a landscape plan, as represented by the applicant, would come back to you for approval. Similarly with photometric plan, that the applicant said he would provide it later, and so therefore, prior to the issuance of a building permit or any work on the site, the applicant will come back here and have an approval on the photometric plan. So we could draft those conditions.
And those are all just conditions to approving the parking, waiving the parking.
That's right. They
Right,
would,
and
so
then
they would,
just gonna add from there.
because they would fall under your criteria, right? So in order to meet that criteria, you have to see that
Right.
the parking is now going to be X configuration on site, but that only works if you have this landscaping, this photometric plan, you know, et cetera, right?
Well, but at the moment, and just for the record, the landowner is on the application. So the excuse of, I'm just a tenant, doesn't fly with this application because he's on it. So you also have what I would consider a partial incomplete application because of the landscape plan, the photoelectric plan, and also an architect plan, because you're showing drawings there of a building, and, you know, when this actual gas station was in operation, it wasn't the prettiest thing you were looking at the time coming in. However, the bridge wasn't in its current location either. It shifted a little bit more towards the building, actually quite a bit, almost on top of it. So it'd be interesting, coming in from Haverhill, it'd be nice to see what is that view going to look like with the landscape plan coming in, which is going to meet what we were talking about, the historical value of the town of Groveland, because that was just a concrete wall that I remember with paint peeling on it, with a door and a bunch of trash all around it as you came in, coming from the Haverhill side. I'm not sure what that is going to look like once that cleaned up, but it'd be nice to get that presentation. But you have an incomplete application with things that we need to know, including the parking plan, how you're going to put in the lines. You mentioned all the spaces, you're short 9, okay, coming into that, the handicap access, and then the runoff and drainage from the building. And if you do anything to the building, how is that going to affect the drainage and conservation and the Rivers Act? Because it's right there. Okay.
Rivers Act was not in effect.
Okay, so, but you still have runoff going
Building's
in.
operational.
Right, but now we have a new application, and we've had several zoning changes, and we have a special permit, so is that going to affect anything? But I'm concerned about a parking lot flooding now, and where's it going? Okay, and it hasn't been active in so long. And then you're going to have some runoff from vehicles being there. So do we have a grease trap? Do we have any of that, those items that are going to come into
Point
play?
earlier, that could be a condition on
I agree.
criteria 12.
Well, you're looking at a condition of something that should have been submitted in the first place. And Hayes did this plan that I'm looking at 4 years ago. So who is the engineer on record today, and who is the architect today, and the lighting engineer that was supposed to submit these plans? Or who is it and where are they? That's all part of the special permit submittal process.
The engineer is the engineer that originally started the plan. He has updated these plans. They have been modified.
Not according to this date, at least this plan. Is there another set of plans? This has got a 2019 plan on it, date on it.
Right, and we had it modified. We had them go in and look at it and do some modifications on it. And-
Okay.
I didn't receive that.
What's the date on that plan?
They went in and went through it and went over it to see that it was
Can I-
compliant,
Can I see that plan?
the same one you get there.
Well, if they modified it, then they would have re-stamped the side of it.
No, I think,
Right.
I think the it's just, we're talking over each other. The prior plan was modified in 2019. That's what you're saying, right?
Oh, I thought he was saying it was just
Right,
modified.
yeah.
So this
Have
plan
an
is
updated
4
plan.
years old, but your application isn't. So,
Well, it's a remand. It's not a new application. It's a remand. So you're seeing everything based upon the plans that were presented to you in 2019. Or whenever it was, but based upon that plan.
wait a minute. What was the date of the submission of this application?
April 29th, 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but you accepted a 2019 plan in 2021.
Correct.
For a different application for different use, but what we're saying on the special permit application on all the submittals, including the landscape plan, the things that were omitted before that are supposed to be part of this plan, they're missing, and the engineer or the architect would have supplied those. So for the record, they're not here. And so therefore, this plan, this plan may not have changed, but certainly the parking outlay and everything else has been updated, but this is a 4-year-old plan.
No, I don't think that's true. I just want to be clear. This is the plan that you submitted with your application in 2021, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Is this the
And so-
plan that was
And this is the plan that you made your decision on
on the restaurant?
2021. No, this is his plan from 2021,
Okay.
right?
Correct.
So we have no architect online, on file no updated engineering plan, no stormwater management plan, no parking lot plan, no lighting plan. Is that all correct?
At this moment, yes.
Okay.
Do you want to, at this moment, you want to shut down the public?
Yeah.
Is there any additional comments from the public before we shut it down?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Do a motion to close the public meeting for this time.
So motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, Bob. So let's, I guess we can talk about amongst ourselves and come to a decision.
Yeah, I don't think we have to do that at the moment.
I want
We
you
just
to,
go through
you
the
need to
criterias.
review the criteria,
Go
Yeah,
through each
we're gonna-
criteria and
review
see.
the criteria
Yeah.
and give us direction about how to.
Can we call the exec session on that and do that then?
No,
No,
we
because
can't.
that's got to go.
Thank
in.
you, Bob.
All right. Want to start a tally list? or-
So,
Start with the 59-4.
yeah, you want to start
I was
with
just
the
gonna-
special permit, specific special permit.
That's where I was going. Yeah,
50-9.4.
Write us down.
I'm sorry?
Write us down.
I'm running. So requesting a special permit, okay, for the parking reduction from parking requirements of section 50-9.4 Town of Groveland bylaw, the bylaw to allow 10 spaces as proposed to the required 17 spaces for a corporate office. Showroom equipment storage, including loading and unloading, as more fully set forth in the application dated April 15, 2021. The application, along the request for the site plan review, was originally heard of June 15, 2021, July 20th, 2021, and August 3rd, 2021. And the decision for the special permit was originally issued on August 19, 2021. That,
Mr. Chair, you could probably go right to the criteria.
okay, I thought it was.
Right, so that's on, I don't think I have page numbers, but
No.
it's under criteria, it's on the third page, I think.
Jump in anytime you want.
Talking section 50-9.4.
I was like, what the hell am I reading? In accordance with the section 50-9.4 of the bylaw, the board may grant a special permit for parking reduction as follows. Any parking requirement set forth herein may be reduced upon the issuance of a special permit by the planning board. If the board finds the reduction is not consistent with public health and safety, or the reduction promotes a public benefit. Such cases include, 1, use of common parking lot for separate uses having peak demands occurring at different times, age or other characteristics of occupants of the facility requiring parking which reduces auto usage, peculiarities of use which makes usual measurements of demand invalid, availability of on-street parking or parking in nearby municipal-owned facilities. In addition, for the special permit, the board applies the criteria set forth in section 50-14.6 of the bylaw, social and economic and community needs which are served in the proposal, traffic flow and safety, including parking or loading, adequacy of utilities and other public services, neighborhood characteristics and social structures, impacts on natural environments, potential fiscal impact, including impact on town services, tax base and employment, and consistency with the Town of Groveland Community Development Plan for the Town of Groveland Master Plan.
So, Mr. Chair, if I could then, if you could just discuss the first set of the criteria, which is the, so go on, turn your page there. The board discussion relative to 50.9.4 about whether or not the reduction is inconsistent or consistent with public health, safety, or the reduction promotes a public benefit. And then those are the examples that are provided.
So you want me to jump to section 50.9.4 criteria, any parking requirements set forth herein?
Yep.
Reduced in issuance of a special permit by the planning board. If the board finds a reduction is not consistent with public health and safety, or that reduction promotes a public benefit. 1, the board finds the relative and foregoing overreaching criteria, the application is, you want to keep running down?
Well, you can run down them, but you should have a discussion.
I was
about
gonna
it.
say, when can we
Yeah,
discuss?
Yeah, you should,
Discuss that first point.
right.
Is it consistent, is the reduction in parking consistent with a public benefit and not inconsistent with public health and safety? You think it is or isn't?
You mean, for me, I'm not of the opinion that the parking as is inconsistent with the square in general. I think it's very consistent with other businesses in that town being, have, some have some spots available on site and the others use the public parking available in Elm Square, which this facility would also have access to. So for myself, I do not see that being inconsistent.
Yeah, I think we talked about this a little bit last time too. I would say, generally speaking, a reduction of parking there, given the location, could actually be a benefit by promoting fewer cars in and out of that spot.
DJ?
Agree. Yep.
I'd say that we hold to the number of the spaces required. One of the things that is different with that building is that the bridge is right where the exit point used to be out of that. There used to be a loop through and loop out, coming through in there. And so, other than cars that were being repaired, there was never a whole lot of cars parked on the outside. It was just an active gas station where people went in, went out, got a sticker, and left.
There was a garage up.
Yeah, there was a garage that obviously for repairs going in, but the bridge wasn't there. That was all part. I mean, the whole access in and out and that second turn out is completely gone now. I mean, the bridge, it's in its location. Okay, so anyone coming in just can't quickly get out of there. And the use of the building at the time was, what's it take to fill up these days, right? So that was it. So as one member here, I don't think to reduce the amount of spaces in the lot required under the special permit. That's just the way that I feel that's on the plan, because we have a new application, and 70-plus years ago, when this building was up, these rules weren't in effect.
Did we have cars back then?
Yeah, we did, actually.
I'm gonna, you know what, I'm gonna, in consistency with Elm Park, I'm gonna say that I'd probably be in favor for the waiver. But
Specific to this criteria.
specific to this criteria, and specifically what the applicant has stated, I think we should condition hours. I think we can condition trucks, GVW trucks, loading, that's not gonna be taking place.
Yeah, I see a fair number of conditions here.
So I mean, we ought to actually talk about it and run down the conditions. If so be it. So why don't we take a quick vote?
So
whether or not
you want to limit the amount of spaces,
Criteria.
I mean, grant a waiver with
What's
the
that?
amount of
We
spaces.
need to discuss all the criteria, all of
Right.
them.
Yeah, all criteria before the vote.
Get it,
Because
talk
then it
about
would be
the
a
rest
yea or
of them.
nay on the whole 50.9, the 50-94.
All right, why don't we,
So then switch over to the next page that talks about the social economic conditions, the traffic flow and safety, every one of those criteria.
oh, okay. Well, let's talk about the social, economic, and community needs which are served by the proposal. In accordance with section 50-14.6 of this bylaw, let's determine what the application for the social, economic, community needs.
I mean, it's an upgrade.
I mean, this is the point I was making before, that for me, I don't think simply upgrading the building provides enough social, economic, community benefit for me to satisfy that. Others might feel differently, but
No, I agree.
I agree, I mean, it doesn't have any economic impact, and it doesn't have a favorable economic impact to the town. Doesn't create a ton of employees. You're gonna be there most of the time. An employee's gonna be there a day and a half?
So, yeah, it's going to be a slight raise to the tax base. Yeah,
Right, I mean,
yeah.
it's being taxed now.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you too. I mean, I think overall it's, yeah, better than what.
I agree.
now,
I see no
certainly, but
social
not
or
the
economic
ideal, but by any stretch.
really into that area. Now, if it was, the way the application stands today, there's ways to probably meet that, but as it stands today, no, I don't see it.
Adequacy of utilities and public services, I don't think that applies to us. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's not impacted.
It's not
What about
impacted.
the traffic flow,
Traffic
safety?
flow.
Traffic flow, safety.
including-
Number 9.
Traffic flow, I didn't have my glasses on. Traffic flow and safety, including parking and loading. It's definitely gonna impact traffic flow and safety.
Yeah, I think, obviously, I think most of us here have voiced that, that's definitely a concern, for that side overall, right?
Every step of the way.
Again, talking about consistency with that stretch, right? I don't necessarily myself see it being too different than some other businesses on that road, and mainly a couple buildings right before as you come into the square. That, I think if we put some conditions such as a right turn only exit or something to that effect, that could minimize some of the, people trying to cross over and create some traffic flow problems. But I don't necessarily see myself as being too much of a safety and flow issue, to be honest.
As far as loading, it's not
Yeah,
gonna
and
take place.
I think if you look at it from the perspective of the reduced
Yeah.
spots actually helps you, right? If-
Mhm.
Is 10 spots better than 19 from a traffic flow and safety and loading perspective?
Right.
I would say it is.
Mhm.
But I think here we can probably add, since he still has to go through the state for access to the site, right? And so any changes to that site plan should come back to the board
Mhm.
for us to see.
After the fact.
Yeah, right.
Correct.
So on the site itself, for loading and unloading, let's say a 10-wheeler goes in, let's say the postal service goes in, let's say anyone going into the post office pulls in with whatever they're doing. Could be locals, it could be visitors, whatever, they're pulling into the post office. Well, if it's a big rig, they're gonna take up, and I don't mean an 18-wheeler, could be just a dually, okay, could take up 2 or 3 spaces in there.
Yeah.
Going through, and at what time are the deliveries with the post office coming in, and everything like that. So if you had 19 spaces, okay, then there would be ample room, okay, to get vehicles out of the way so they don't interfere. And he is gonna have some deliveries, whatever delivers that stuff every now and then.
But,
Okay,
but
coming in.
could we add some contingencies as far as hours for loading and unloading to the site?
Well,
as
it'd
part of
have to
that?
be hours of loading and loading,
Right.
not to interfere with the post office. Does the post
So-
office
so we
even know about this?
So if we
And what
did
is
like
their
a-
sign off? Who's signing off for the government on this?
Load and.
Has the post office been notified? Does anybody know?
Well, they,
Do
they're
we-
not abutters, but,
Yeah.
yeah, they're not abutters, right?
The post office?
No, they're
No,
renters.
because they're on the land.
They're
They
tenants.
were on the parcel,
They're on the
so
same
they
parcel.
wouldn't.
Oh,
be-
yeah, but the hours of operation may conflict. That's
We've
for
already-
deliveries and,
We've already had the discussion that there's no trucks over 12,000 GVWs, which is a 12-foot box truck. So there'd be
Okay.
really no loading specifically.
right, so
It's
so
already-
really what we have is just competing traffic,
Correct.
and then the access in and out.
The
Okay.
access is.
And
gonna
remember,
be-
the access for the building was completely different with the exit point that is no longer there. I mean,
That's not
it's-
a problem, that's gonna be
No,
DOT.
no, but that's what we're dealing with on the site. And so that's why the spaces need to be, yeah, I think you need to have more spaces.
In a perfect world, but this is a pre-existing.
Well, no, we have a perfect bylaw that says 19, so that's what I'm talking about, you know.
Does any other spaces in Elm Square have 19?
He hasn't, I don't think that was a, well, wait a minute, anything else is a pre-existing non-conformance, not a brand-new application, so that's one. And we didn't have the site spaces, back then, coming into the 50s. But I don't recall in part of the application to be utilizing anything
But if we
that's
reduce
coming
the
in.
spaces, right, that means there's gonna be less traffic flow inside there. And if
No,
we
it's going to be
reduce-
less area for people to park, and maneuverability inside a tight space. In other words, if you had more parking area,
But it's
then you
not
could
being used.
maneuver.
Can't
It's not,
create area.
we're limiting the amount of people, that there's only gonna be max 2 employees, and then maybe another
Okay,
worker.
but you're looking at this as
Only
as a
one meeting.
health, safety, and welfare. Well, you don't know that. Let's say the post office gets a run around Christmas time, okay? So who knows? But the site is the site, okay? So the more spaces, there's more maneuverability, there's extra room. Who knows what people are coming in? What happens if somebody comes in with one of the, the handicap mobiles? The van-looking structure that drops somebody off in a wheelchair.
More spaces, though. The room is defined, so how many spaces do we want to put in that area?
Well, I think you're maxed with what is here. That's my question.
Oh, right.
So is this site viable to meet our bylaw at the time? Or does it meet the requirement for the waiver to the site? Okay? So the more room, the more maneuverability, the less public safety, accidents, okay? Handicap access, drop-off, all those things that come through. Some of the stuff it may meet and some of the stuff it may
right.
not.
Yeah, but again, he said that, let's say max 2 employees, and let's say if it's a husband and wife coming to customers at a time, right? Lisa, can you, just a point of
So then
question.
your condition is
Can we
max,
Can we take post office traffic into consideration for
the same
spaces
site.
for this other
yeah,
use?
that's what it is.
Well,
You're not
it's,
supposed to use that, right?
No, that's what I'm asking, yeah.
You would
I don't-
have to,
The post
because
office isn't supposed to be used, it's only one employee parking and that's it.
right, so they have to limit that on site, and the other parking spaces are for this use. So you can put a condition in that says how many employees can be there on any given time based upon his representations, notwithstanding the 10 parking spaces.
But our decision is based on how many people are going to be in that structure.
That's right.
To go in there, but employees and customers in that specific structure.
Right.
You can still limit the amount of employees in that.
Right,
site at
right.
one time.
But what I'm saying, any run on holiday stuff at the post office has no bearing on what we're talking about here.
Well, it kind of does, because it's the same
but-
parcel
but-
with the same parking lot.
But
They're not supposed to be using
they're not
it.
supposed to be using those spaces, though. That's what
They're not
we're
supposed to be in
saying.
that lot at all, except for the
Those
employee.
those
The one
spaces are
employee,
for
that's it.
the gas station, not for the post office.
Show me the parking for the post office.
Yeah,
They don't have it.
That's not, that's
That's
not-
my point.
Right, that's
So
it.
if they don't, okay, I know what everyone's saying,
Mhm,
but have you seen the site,
mhm.
Yeah.
and where do people park? They park under the canopy,
mhm,
they park along.
on the other side.
Because it's a vacant building.
Because, yeah, it's
It's
big.
a big-
No, even back in the day when this thing was operational, and the only other parking was over here around the
No,
loading
it's definitely
zone.
not his control, but, and I'm in favor of the waiver, but it's not. Lisa, so if we consider this a one parcel site with 2 buildings on it, you still have to take, like Wally says, you still have to, you can't discount that, the traffic flow coming out of the post office,
So
because
I'm
there's
gonna-
actually no
I'm
parking.
going to ask you a question to that question. What did you consider when you authorized the restaurant to go in there?
It was off-site parking.
It was
It
off-site
was
parking.
off-site parking, and there was a shuttle operation that
It
was
was a
going to
shuttle
be no
operation,
cars.
but it
That's why I
didn't,
asked the question.
Yeah.
but it, for some miracle, it didn't find its way in the decision, which it should have.
So, and is the post office was approved to be there without any parking already?
I didn't approve that.
No, but somebody allowed that post office to go there, government use, right? So I'm sure it was exempt, without parking,
With one employee parking.
without,
And a
With-
loading-
with-
and a
parking
loading dock.
space, right?
And maybe one.
And so
handicap
that's an
spot.
existing condition. So
But it's a-
the
but it's a-
question before, hang on a second, the question before you is, the proposed use and the parking that's available, is that satisfy the criteria? In your discussion is, well, what is health, safety, parking, and conflicts? And you're pointing out those things that might be true. Some of you may think that that's solved by putting conditions in to say, okay, even though there's 10 spaces required, we know that there's not going to be any more than 4 cars on site at any given time. He's already said that. So you've now limited it even more. So you can have that discussion, but you can't add the parking requirements for the post office to this, but you can take into consideration that there is traffic that goes in and out there that serves the post office.
And I think that's what he was doing. And I tend
But there's
to.
not-
Right, so that's why,
Right. and
that's why it
and
needs
that's up to
19
your- That's
spaces.
how your discussion and your limitations.
I don't
and-
park there.
Right.
I park across the street. I don't want to have to go in and out of there. It's miserable.
Right, well, that's a point. That's a health safety problem too, because now you gotta cross a state highway to get across over there.
There's a crosswalk and a light.
But-
It's more of an
Okay,
inconvenience than it is safe.
right, and,
Busy for Groveland, it's not busy according to 114.
oh, yeah. That's right, that's true.
It's really not, I mean, I sat there at 5 o'clock and watched
But
the
that,
traffic.
but that's one of the findings, okay, is that this is on the same parcel with a pre-existing non-conformance, I don't even know when that post office went in, 1970, so
It may not
50,
be
60 years.
non-conforming, it may be exempt, so.
So,
Exempt, I think it's exempt.
so if it's exempt, we still, it's not like the vehicles aren't going in and out of there. You know, they're not levitating themselves off the property as they come through. So we still have to consider the traffic, which is traffic. Okay, so if you waive, if you're waiving 19 spaces, then you have to limit this site to one car to take into consideration the other flow.
The post office need 9.
And so the post office does its deliveries at least twice a day, but they're not here. We don't have anybody representing them to.
Nor do
or-
we need them. I mean, you can,
Right, so
you
you,
can say to yourself, you know, you can kind of like take this and look at this and say, okay, so maybe they have 1 or 2 cars. I don't know. I'm not a traffic expert, so I don't know who's going into this
Right.
post office.
And then
We're
we-
on cameras, so we can't watch it, but you can take in consideration, is there gonna be a couple cars here? Probably yes, right?
yeah.
Is this waiverable? And can we hold 2 cars on there? You think that would be enough?
If you could hold 2 cars, and I'm not sure what's under, where's the canopy parking? Did you have canopy parking under there at all?
Yes.
Is
There's
canopy
enough-
parking?
There's enough parking for,
No, on the plan,
Underneath.
you didn't have it.
Right.
it's not in the plan, but you can definitely put a car or 2 there.
So, okay. So then the restriction, on the condition of waiving the parking, that the vehicles park under the canopy and stay clear for maneuverability in the lot for the 2 buildings.
Well, I mean, even if we restrict the number of cars there, it's still 4. Let's say, okay, his car, his admin's car, husband, wife, customer, right?
Right.
That's 6 other spaces that now the post office can utilize to help solve that traffic issue.
Yeah, but they,
as well.
they've always had that.
Not
necessarily.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's been, yes, they've kind of
Overgrown.
hodgepodged it, right, but I mean, not lined out spaces necessarily.
Not a
Not
handicap
when it was a
space.
gas station.
What's that?
Not when it was a gas station. That building was there at the same time, right?
Yeah, when the building, but again, we're missing
That's why they
a
only
big
had
chunk
one
of
spot.
roadway.
You're
going
right,
through.
You're missing all this,
Right.
Yeah, but even
where they
still,
used
I
to
mean,
park the bikes.
That whole entire space there was most likely cars ready, possibly.
No, no, actually, well, that I remember, when you're coming in for the building, coming through, this whole section over here of road is gone. The bridge is in its place. So as people came in to the site, they went in through here, and then they exited out a different way. Right, they exited out, right. So they exited it out a different way. Well, we no longer have that luxury. Yeah, but we have, but even when they did that, okay, coming through, yeah, we had another exit point. We don't have that. We're gonna be bottlenecked here. The other thing was
And that's
that
why
the
you have
other
to have the
vehicles,
enough for 2 cars, pulling in, one pulling in, one pulling out.
And that's gonna
Which is
be,
what was driven
right,
by
and that's
the
gonna be dictated elsewhere.
These spaces
Correct.
here, if I had a garage, those would be full of cars waiting for parts.
Yeah, but they weren't. Okay,
But that's what they're there for.
But-
That's what they were there for, and they had no problem getting in. I could take a 12-foot box truck, you could take a 12-foot box truck, pull in here, back in here without getting into any of those parking spots.
blindfolded probably.
Yeah.
But anyways,
So it's really not an issue.
So
but I'm a
there's,
commercial driver, you
I-
are too.
I-
yeah,
You know what I mean? So I hold a commercial CDL, so, but,
So a condition on the, if you're gonna go with the waiver, it's gotta be, the vehicle's gotta be out of there. And there's plenty of space to pull them in.
okay, let me ask you this, Wally. If you're, I don't know, if you're 75-year-old Wally Sorensen, are you gonna go parking in the
future.
back spaces in the future? Or are you
No, I'm
gonna
gonna be-
hobble from the front?
No, I'm gonna take that
Use the
handicap
post
special
office.
van that's gonna go beep, 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 and it's gonna take up 3 spaces, and it's gonna escort me out.
Correct. You're not gonna go to your back.
So this is over here for the handicap for the post office. Where's the handicap
No,
coming in
that's-
over here for this
That's-
building here, for the
No,
lot?
it's the handicap for this building, he already explained that.
Okay.
Right. And
So we got
employee-
one.
So the employee parking could be in the rear. Hence, that's why we want lights when the employees come out. They're safe.
Mm.
They don't roll down the hill into the Merrimack River and drift away.
so even if both buildings were at full capacity of what you'd have, an employee, an owner,
Say customer A, customer B.
customer, take two customers and with one car, right? That's 3 spots. Potential, another employee who's a sales rep, that's 4 spots. And then you have the post office that's sharing that as well. So you have an employee spot, then you have a handicap spot, which is technically for
This building.
this building, not for the post office. And even if you had 2 additional people that are going into the post office at the same time, 10 spots cover that.
I agree. So, and then I have a problem why the restaurant was gonna utilize the back of this as a patio, if you remember correctly.
And that's why we put restrictions on it, right? That's the whole point of having this discussion, is we put conditions on,
Right.
on
So,
agreeing.
so if you're gonna, again, if you're gonna grant the waiver, max it, 2 vehicles in the spots for the building, the rest open for access, and he's got space to pull them in the canopy. So that leaves this whole area clear for maneuverability, Christmas overrun, anything.
But you can go further,
Well, those are counted for, Wally, in this, you see that there's 20 feet in between, so it's not as if they're right on top of each other. You can see that the spot between the end of the 9 by 20 parking spot line, and then you have an additional 19, I think it's 19 feet in between there.
Well, 9 by 20 is, so you gotta have to be able to get the car in and out.
Right.
That's it's going in parallel.
Right. No, I understand that, but it shows you the gap line between the employee parking spot, and so there is there is room there.
And
If
Wally,
they were all packed, it would be tight,
That's what I'm
but
talking
we've been in any parking lot that it's tight, the way that they cram in spots now because they don't, you see compact cars only.
ever go to Linfield Marketplace and try to get in and out?
Oh, yeah. Okay,
How about the
but
tractor
still,
trailer that pulled into
but if
this
you're gonna
parking lot?
grant a waiver and you're gonna condition it, employees either out of the way, or they utilize the parking under the overhang.
They can't park in the overhang, I don't believe.
Why not?
There's a parking setback there. There's see that dotted line that comes at an angle? There's a
Yeah.
parking setback there, so I don't think they can park there. I was thinking that was 2
Okay,
spots as
so-
well,
At least
but I don't think
How do you,
that's,
wait a minute, how are you gonna get stuff loaded and offloaded in there if you can't park under there?
I-
Because that's where the bay doors
But
are.
it's not parking, it's
not
loading and unloading.
yeah, loading and unloading only.
And the people from the post office park in the parking setback. Maybe
No,
we should all let them-
I don't think there's any restriction of parking under that for employees, to clear the parking.
There when you were- So, Wally,
That gives you the extra spaces.
what's to say that conservation doesn't give him the back of the building, he can park in the back of the building? Hypothetical.
If they give it to them or don't.
Yeah. They were good, the restaurant, if you remember the decision on the restaurant, he was gonna put a beautiful.
Yeah, but we don't
patio
have that
there.
application, we don't
No,
have that
but-
decision in front of us.
We don't.
Right. So then, another condition is if they grant more space, parking in the back, that he brings it before the board
Okay.
for modification.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we can do that as well.
Right.
But again, you know, I also think we need to be, you know, somewhat realistic as far as how many cars they're gonna need, right? Like you said.
Well, that's the thing, you don't know. So
So
we're,
you can give this-
that's why we're on.
That's why we-
Right.
Keep going around, let's make our decision on.
Again, I think, you know, his cars are gonna, for him and his tenants are gonna be minimal. We can condition any deliveries that are outside of the windows where the post office deliveries happen, right? We know the post office are
Yeah.
8, 12, 5 for the post office, right? We can say his deliveries 7 to 8 and 5 to 6.
But he's not having deliveries, you say?
But he could,
his
you know,
own van
to make
coming.
sure that we, you know, loading and unloading of his van, right? So we can condition it to make sure that his vans aren't there at the same time as the post
By
office. truck is.
7:30, the vans have to be out.
Okay. But again, point being that we could contingent that so that the loading and unloading isn't a traffic issue inside the lot,
Okay,
right?
correct.
And then it's a matter of,
We could do no deliveries at all, except for the employees.
Except for pulling
except
off-
Employee
right.
loading and
Good,
unloading
right.
is an option, right? You don't have to have
Right.
any deliveries. He has another Haverhill location where he can do any type of third-party drop.
And he's already said that. He's
Correct,
not
that's what I
gonna have
mean.
any
So
deliveries.
we don't have to
The
worry about
deliveries
adding
go
a
to the site
condition
themselves.
saying, we don't have to worry about a box truck coming in for delivery. It's just his trucks for loading and offloading.
Unless a vanity dropped off.
But that's employee only, loading
Correct.
and unloading.
yeah, that's not his
No
box truck.
third parties.
No third
No
party.
third parties.
That's
Thank you, Lisa.
probably someone in a pickup truck, bringing it back to
Okay,
me.
so then you've got adequacy of utilities and public services, that's not impacted.
That's not impacted.
Neighborhood, character, and social structure.
Yeah, that's where we talked about
We
some
wanted-
kind of a historical look or an
I think
architect
we wanted
view.
to
Well,
see the
you know what?
lighting plan to come
I
back.
wanna just see the building as per the rendering, and as per we spoke in the last, 3 years about this, that it's
So-
gonna be,
So we can condition it upon that rendering and the description he had, showing a final plan before any work on the building or site plan. We can condition it on the landscape plan before any site work or work on the building, and condition on photometric plan before
Yep.
any work on the building, coming back to this board.
yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Impacts on the natural environment.
Well, there goes the runoff, the drainage,
So you can, the final site plan to show that if there are these new parking spaces, well, he meets whatever stormwater requirements are. This is a previously developed site, so they're much different than your other fresh site stormwater requirements. But if you're putting in new paving or whatever, you can ask for the Cape Cod berm along that back side. And then obviously compliance with the Conservation Commission requirements. You don't want to overstep your bounds there, but
Correct.
you can make sure that any impacts addressed are shown on the plan
But
by
the-
the Conservation Commission.
but the previous site, the stormwater management, I don't believe was out then, in the 50s, at least
Doesn't
not
matter,
as
you're
minimal
grandfathered
on
under
that.
the
So we just need the
Stormwater
site
Policy
plan
Act.
for runoff with the spaces then.
But you gotta remember, if the parking lot is in disrepair,
Right.
and you go to repair it, that's when you lay down a Cape Cod berm.
Right,
Right,
you gotta
so
do something.
You're
yeah.
gonna meet, right, so we could show along the backside the Cape Cod berm, right there,
Well-
so there's no runoff there. But if you can, he's gonna have to go to the Conservation Commission before he does anything on the site.
Correct.
They're gonna address this issue. So what you can say is, has to be compliant with the orders of conditions, and if the site plan changes, they have to come back to you to see it. Right? Because the Conservation Commission is gonna take
So
care
we're
of
gonna
any
have to-
construction in
So you
the,
gotta, all right.
with the asphalt.
In our stormwater management and land disturbance bylaw, if the applicant receives an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission, they don't have to come to the planning board for stormwater.
Right. So
We would wanna.
We
see
would
the
wanna
Cape-
see it,
So
so,
you can,
See it,
you
but
can, we can have it shown on the plan, so you can see what it is, right?
Yeah.
When he brings back the site plan, he'll show it on the plan.
yeah,
you
so the
can see
plan's
what
gonna
it
be
is.
modified to
Right.
include
But
whatever
again,
their
We
decision
don't
is.
have veto approval
He
based on.
does not have to.
Can I, yeah, I
Much
just
for
have
the
board. Wanna see
a
the
question
plan.
for clarification for the board when we talk about stormwater in this regard. So our stormwater management and land disturbance bylaw states that for applicability, so this is section 14-5, section A, no person shall undertake a construction activity including clearing, grading, excavation that results in land disturbance that will disturb disturb equal to or greater than 20,000 square feet of land, or will disturb less than 20,000 square feet of land, but is part of a larger common plan of development or scale that will ultimately disturb equal to or greater than 20,000 square feet of land draining to Groveland without a stormwater management plan permit from the board. Where is the board finding the applicability?
Yeah. It's-
Cape Cod berming wouldn't trigger our stormwater management and land disturbance permit.
I think what the board is saying from a health and safety point of view and impact on the environment, they want to make sure that if there's any improvements that change the grading on the parking lot, that it doesn't run to the river, right? And they talked about cleaning out the catch
Right.
basin.
Grease
So the-
traps, et
So
cetera.
it's not I think that there's a conflation of the stormwater
Yeah.
requirements versus the impact on the environment.
Okay, I just
Right.
want to make sure that's clear because I
So-
think it could be,
So they don't want to increase any drainage off the hot top towards the river,
You
is
can't,
essentially.
you just, it's,
Right, so, and that's why the
Right.
Conservation
The
Commission
conservation will
would
take care
address
of
that, that's right,
There's no way that they're not gonna take care of that.
right. So we can draft a condition that addresses that,
Mhm.
and then you would meet that criteria.
potential fiscal impact.
Right. Town services, tax base, and employment, I think there's,
Yeah, I think we said minimal both. couple of
Minimal on
employees,
that.
Minimal tax base, but,
There'd be no addition, nothing in addition.
yeah,
It's already-
nothing to
Consistency
speak
with
of.
the-
Same employees, same tax. it wouldn't affect-
It's not, I don't think
Yeah.
the tax base is gonna move. Consistency with the town of Groveland Community Development Plan or the town of Groveland Master Plan, I think we've already,
so you've
Yeah, we
talked about
include that.
that in this, you talked about that initially, and this, goes back to the first criteria related to the social, economic, and community needs. So those are the two criteria that you all seem to be a little split on, absent the conditions.
Yep.
So, Mr. Chair, you can do one of two things. I think that at this point, you've kind of discussed everything and we've got all the conditions, but I think for me to be able to draft a decision for your review at the next meeting, I need to hear, so I think that there's consensus on the board with the appropriate conditions under criteria 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 that I've laid out, right? And so, is it fair to say that if the board were to vote on those criteria, and maybe you just want to take a straw vote on those criteria together right now to see where the board is on those together?
What was the condition on 13? Sorry.
So, there's no condition on 13, but it's minimal impact on potential fiscal impacts, including impact on town services, tax base, and employment, right? So, you've got minimal impact on those, but the discrepancy between the board members, I think, come from criteria 8, social, economic, and community needs, and criteria 14, as I've laid it out, consistency with the master plan, right? But the ones that are sandwiched in between, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, I think with the conditions we've talked about, you're generally in consensus that the application would meet those criteria with the conditions. And so I guess I'd like to see the board take a straw vote on those to confirm that before you talk about the other ones again.
Do we need to talk about the conditions again, or you
Nope,
have?
just,
you
why don't you
have
just
enough?
take a vote?
Oh, okay.
Does the board agree that the application meets those criteria with the conditions that we've discussed? That would be 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13.
Okay, does anyone want to fly a motion and take a straw vote? on the conditions set forth?
So motioned.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Do-
All-
Yeah.
Yeah.
All in favor for the vote?
Aye.
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 Okay, so that's a unanimous vote on those. All right, so now you want to take a vote on 8 and 14. You can either take them together or separate. I think that your discussion under each of them is the
I think
same.
it's the same, but it's.
Yeah.
So you could take a vote on 8 and 14 together.
I think, John, do you have a condition?
further?
A condition for 8? We don't have, we have no conditions for 8 and 14, right, as of right now, right?
As of right now.
Yeah.
No conditions.
Well, let me ask you this, John. How would you condition the social impact? And you gotta put 60 employees in there?
That was a concern for you, right? I think that was the first one you had mentioned.
Yeah.
You
Right.
really didn't agree that.
You can get the carnival back in the green, green space. Ferris wheel.
So,
Should
all
there
right,
be
so
a
we'll-
condition? Would there be a condition?
I don't know, is
No,
there?
I know.
Conditional.
how do you, how
My
how would you
business
condition
plan.
it? You can't, I don't think you can condition it.
Well, the condition would be if in on the master plan, on 8 anyway, you know, for, you know, they're gonna submit something and perhaps with the condition for what the building looks like or whatever, and for meeting a community need, I don't think we're gonna meet the community need, but the appearance of the building might have
I
something
don't
to
think
do
you're
with
gonna
that.
go back to the Elm Park Square master plan on that building either.
Well, let's see.
Make it clear.
So let's just say for social,
I think,
to meet the beautification of the building, I'm trying to see where that comes into play. Because there really is no, you know, social for the building? No, I'm not seeing that.
Socially,
Economic?
it's an eyesore. It's-
Well, that's what I'm talking about, addressing up of the building, and so the condition could be with the site plan, landscape plan, and an architect plan of the building, and it's.
Well, they're gonna have
what
to
it's
come
look
back and
We're gonna
provide
see
that.
that.
Right, come back before that. So there would be 8 as far as I can see.
but is fixing the appearance of the building really addressing social community benefit and consistency with the master plan for downtown, like.
I see no
Like,
social
yes,
benefit,
obviously,
a
we all
community
want that site
benefit
to look
for
better than it does, right?
presentation.
Well, I mean, I will say just on that point
But-
too, technically, since we are working on the town master plan now, but we do not have one at present, so we have nothing that this can meet at time of application.
Right.
So the master plan can't, to my eyes, can't really be considered at this time.
It's
Just-
in
just for
play
point
though,
of discussion.
so, but yeah, I'm not, it's, that would be the only thing that I can see. I mean, you're coming into, welcome to Groveland, it's welcome to, you know, the abandoned gas station. That there's no benefit for the town of Groveland at all, okay? And with the bridge, when it slid over, made it worse. Okay, that's the problem that we have, so it'd be nice to get some kind of dress point entering in from the Haverhill side of the building. I don't know what that's gonna be, but that would be,
That would fall under
social
landscape.
setting.
I see you soften the blow. of the building.
right, so that's what I mean. So there's your 8 that we see as the application comes before us, at least as far as I can see right away.
And again, that's gonna go to conservation. There's gonna have to
I
be
definitely agree. I
consistency
mean,
with
this is
farm.
not.
Okay, but there's your condition. You're asking about 8 on the
downtown
approval, that would be,
scenario,
if there's a condition, that would be
So that
it.
we can condition it as like, how do you soften the blow of the building and
Yeah,
to
And
meet
it's-
the the needs of the town. So
yeah,
it's not
that would
just
be it,
stop.
not to come into a, gee, what's that thing?
So what are
I
you
mean,
saying? 'Cause
economically, it's helpful because when you do dress up a building, I mean, that entire building across the street is empty, right? And we're in the middle of, that's the middle of downtown. You'd think would be a prime location, but as you start to fix up buildings and whether, I mean,
But that's a wood historic structure.
Right, and that's been around a long time. So,
but it's,
What do you just,
but this,
the
but
fact
this
that he's
could
bringing, the
look.
fact that he's bringing it in.
All right,
trying to-
let's just, we got a builder here too, right? Okay, so it's very easy to dress that building up instead of a flake concrete brick wall, throw some siding on it coming in, welcome to Groveland.
I
Okay.
think you can do the same thing with plantings. You soften the blows with
anything.
plantings.
Yeah.
Okay, anything other than
You're
than
talking-
what's
You're
there?
talking about the side on the, where the bridge is?
Yes,
Majority of you can't even see.
right, but
Right
you
now you
will,
They can't see it.
you will, that's the thing. And when you could, it didn't look so hot
He's gonna
either.
have a star, he's gonna have the mural. He's
I
gonna
can't
have
remember if the
star
bathrooms
logo
were on that side before or
on
something
the
like that.
Groveland, but that's on us. That's,
He can have the style logo if it meets the
But that comes
signage
under the,
requirements.
that comes under the town bylaw for the look and appearance of a historic downtown. It's very easy to do that, so,
Does it have
but it goes back to his architectural
is
plan
that a
for the building.
historic building, just to be able to say that?
No.
Just say that it's-
yes.
No, but you want to dress up something coming in, which he's going to be doing, we just don't know what it is. So there's your limitation on 8 for social and economic.
Well, let me float an idea though, on that side that faces the bridge.
Yeah,
What if we floated an idea about some kind of welcome to Groveland mural?
that's what I mean, that's
You know, that-
something, but,
Yeah,
and
it's just-
I'm
it's
sure
just
he
show
wants to
goodwill
do
to
that
the
too,
town,
because
right?
On that building?
on
Yeah,
that
like
side of the
on the
building
side.
that
I
faces.
don't know, I mean, we can't
can't
say
put a
that,
No,
we
no,
can't, we
no.
can't say that you have to put welcome to Groveland.
No, I mean,
on-
No, no,
I
no.
mean, we can, but we can work with the applicant on behalf of the
You
town
know
to
what's
see
pretty
would
cool?
they
I
be
went to
amenable to
Nashville,
this.
Nashville,
right?
real quick.
Yeah,
You can't make that a.
All these.
No, no, you can make it a condition, but,
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I mean,
I mean-
watching too much HGTV.
I mean, I don't know, that's up to,
up to
that's
the
up to
landlord.
the
You
applicant.
can't-
Nice idea, but you
But-
can't tell someone what to put on.
Right.
But we do have a downtown historic look, other than the abandoned gas station building that will be turned into a warehouse. Okay, so that's your item 8, in flow
can't be
with the
a gas
master
station,
plan.
though.
Right.
Right,
There
so,
has to be something else, and now this is being put forward to.
Yeah.
so
actually
limitation
create
based upon the architectural design or plan improvements with the building, just stick it in there. I mean,
Yeah.
there's your restriction right there. on
And
eight.
I think to DJ's point.
And I'm sure he wants to do a
anytime you
nice job
fix
on
up And
that.
dress up the building and
You're
coat
doing
of
some
paint,
kind of a.
it lifts up
Right.
that area, right?
Right.
Just naturally, right, so.
But this would be back to, he's gonna come back in the board,
Right, so there's your condition.
so, you know. Okay, so we'll
Okay,
take
so
a
there's
straw
condition on
vote.
8.
He's gonna come back to the board for what? That, you're talking on 8? We're talking.
8.
So he's gonna come back to,
Eight- eight and
with the
14,
landscape.
The condition, a
Yeah.
condition about what that side of the building's gonna look like.
Okay.
I'll float it. We good?
You wanna float it?
So
Yeah.
you want a straw vote on 8 and 14?
That is correct. We're gonna straw vote on 8 and 14, social, economic, community needs, which are served by the proposal, and number 14.
And those kind of go the
Consistency- Hold on
same.
a second, let me finish. My consistency with the town of Groveland Community Development Plan and the Town of Groveland Master Plan. Now, I've said this so many times, I don't even have to look at this. So do you want to fly,
Yeah, the condition for 8 and 14.
So I have the condition.
Okay. Yeah, for 8 and 14.
all right, so
Meet those.
we're gonna take a vote on 8 and 14. We already know what the conditions are. Motion to approve on the discussion of 8 and 14.
On the condition.
So motion.
Yeah.
Second? We'll take a vote from right to left. John?
I'll buy into Wally's argument that, if the premise is that just simply fixing that property is a benefit enough, then I'll say yes.
I don't feel as though there needs to be any type of condition on those two. Don't think 14 plays a role here, because it's not part of the development plan, it hasn't been set forth yet, like you said, master plan, and I don't think that, but, so I don't know how I need to vote on that. I don't think there
You
needs
think
to be
the
a condition.
criteria is met?
I think the criteria is met.
Okay, so
as
that's,
well.
that's the issue, and then when I get a decision to you, if you don't like my conditions, you all can talk about that,
All right,
okay?
so yes, sure. Go forward.
I'm a yes with the conditions.
I'm a yes with the conditions,
Same.
so
All
it's
right.
fair, it passes.
So, Mr. Chair, if it's okay with you and the board members, based upon all the discussion tonight, I'll draft a decision and have it to you a week before the next meeting, and then at that meeting, you can go through it and formally adopt the decision and change the conditions or however you want it, and then we'll submit it to the court thereafter.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Do we have a
Thank you.
vote on
No, so she's going to draft.
Are we still running through the rest of this?
Then we're going to read it.
No, we're done.
Then at the next meeting, we actually
No.
vote to approve the.
The rest
Yeah.
of the agenda.
Okay. Request a 5-minute break.
Yep, but we need to continue this to the next meeting.
Oh, yes, you do need to.
And I want to note, in 2 weeks, so hold on, let me just pull up the calendar quickly. So in 2 weeks, the meeting date would be June 20th. The day before is Juneteenth, which is a federal holiday, which means the Board of Selectmen meeting would be scheduled for the 19th is now going to be on the 20th. It's based, my understanding with the town administrator, it's going to be a somewhat quick agenda. They meet at 6:30. They're anticipated to be done at 7:30. So our meeting will just have to be pushed back 30 minutes so that, because the other rooms are not available. Public safety is booked. I don't think it would work well in the back meeting room.
So-
It'd be too tight.
So 7:30?
It
7:30
will
is fine
just
with me.
be the 20th at 7:30 instead of, for the motion to continue, just make sure 7:30, not 7 on the 20th.
So, Mr. Chair, flag motion to continue to June 20th at 19:30 hours.
So motioned,
Second.
second.
All in favor?
All in favor? for the
Aye.
June
Aye.
20th continuous?
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, there we go.
Lisa, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lise. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm going to take a 5.
Bye.
5-minute recess.
Of course it does.
When you walk around that building.
We good? Back from recess? Okay.
All right, we're back on, but my mic isn't on. Welcome back, residents of Groveland. We are back for round 2. Discussion of regarding zoning changes for town meeting 2024. Should we continue that, Annie?
I can make a quick comment. As we've been doing for the past few years, I put together an application for a grant through the Community One Stop portal through Mass Development to request funds for a consultant to help us with zoning changes, to kind of take a more comprehensive look at our zoning, kind of clean some stuff up, take a comprehensive view, make sure things are, referencing the current Mass General law, kind of just a comprehensive look. So just applied for that last Friday, should hear back mid to late summer.
Would that also include making the zoning more business-friendly, which would be more compliant with our master plan?
In my application for the funding, I do specifically call out our draft master plan and the direction in which the respondents and the draft master plan was going in regards to, business and whatnot.
Okay, next up, is that it?
Yep.
Issue with required signage for 142 King Street.
Yep, so at our last meeting or the one before, the new homeowner of 142 King Street came in to get the as-built. He had the signage all ready to go. He just needed approval from Highway. Part of the decision, which is in your packet, notes a speed placard, which is the jurisdiction of the Board of Selectmen and Police, so not something that the Planning Board nor Highway Superintendent have authority over, so Rennie, the Highway Superintendent, wasn't comfortable approving anything. I went back through the documents from Hancock and TEC, and it seemed as though the real kind of discussion was more so about like the curve warning, which Rennie was fine with. It was a speed placard that really kind of Rennie wasn't comfortable approving because it's not his jurisdiction. So just we need some clarification on that so that the applicant can, close it out and put up the right type of signage.
I've been down, I was gonna say, I've been down that site, and I don't think he needs a 5-mile-an-hour speed sign, but he does, we can just.
The curb
have him put
sign.
this curb sign.
Okay.
Blind drive, curb,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that was just probably a typo.
Okay, so just the curve warning is fine. That's
The
in
curb
the
warning is
decision.
fine,
Just
so-
do away with the speed placard.
Correct.
Okay.
And then you can have the stick figure with the blind drive.
So the decision doesn't call out blind drive. It calls out curve warning and the speed
You're coming
placard.
around the curve and then someone's coming
It's
out.
not a blind,
so-
it's not a blind curb. It's just a,
Right, it's just a road coming out.
just have him put a
Right,
curb
so
sign,
that-
no big deal.
Okay.
The
Takes a, it's a,
standard stick figure curve,
it's just a
yeah.
swoop-de-doo. We can call it a swoop-de sign.
All right, there you
Will
go.
do.
All right,
Next up, I'm gonna recuse myself.
okay. All right, so next up, 833 Salem Street, acceptance of the line of credit.
So it's not part of your big meeting packet. It's the first stapled one at the back of your meeting packet. It is so I don't have the official line of credit letter yet. I have a commitment letter from the bank as well as a commitment letter from them, kind of just going through the process. It's almost done. The applicant for this project is looking to begin soon, and one of the conditions of the decision is to have that $50,000 assurance in place. So because it wasn't ready in time, I'm not sure how the board wants to handle it, whether to, conditionally approve or,
Conditionally approved. That's standard. Upon receiving it.
and then would the board, if the board makes a motion to do so, would they be willing to allow me to sign off on it on behalf of the board? So that not to hold it up.
Yeah, that'll work. So we need a motion to conditionally approve 833 based upon the bond being approved.
Seconded.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Show the vote unanimous. Okay, second motion to have Annie signed for the board, once that does take place, because she's here full-time.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Show the vote unanimous. You now have the authority. Okay, and then a minor mod for the same.
Sorry, one second, I'm just typing that out.
Yep.
Would you like me to speak, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay, so in the site plan that we had, I believe it was 8 20 by 40 units for contractor storage. We have the ability to put one more. I believe we flew this over to TEC, and there's no stormwater management associated with it, it's just a small modification. So we're seeking to add just one more unit to the back building, building number 4.
I see it.
It's highlighted in red in the back.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just looking for approval for one more unit. Before we're ready to build it.
Okay, so in accordance with the approval, there's two types. There's a major and a minor modification where the site itself hasn't changed. The spacing is here. Can everybody see what this is on their plan? With the one additional cube?
Yeah, the little red.
Okay, coming in here. Okay. With the address of the board, we consider this a minor modification so that it can be approved just by here on the board through that. And that's what the applicant is requesting, that we have done this before. That's not an issue. If that's the way that everybody is thinking, we need just a motion to approve the additional unit as a minor modification for 833 Salem Street.
And Mr. Chair, you'll notice that the site notes highlighted in red to go with that unit. It shows that there's really no impact on the site whatsoever.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at here, and it's good that you highlighted that cube there, so everybody can see it.
I second the
Does
motion.
it take up you're still good on parking, right? It takes up,
We're still perfect on parking,
Yeah.
yeah.
I second that motion.
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Show the vote unanimous. Show the minor modification approved for 833 Salem Street for the additional cubed storage.
I believe since the board is all intact here, Andy, we have a Mylar to sign at the registry. We didn't have the proper,
That'll be for other items not reasonably anticipated at the time of posting. So just later in the
Wanna get to
decision,
that?
in the agenda. We'll do it at the end.
coming back.
Okay. All right, Oakland Terrace.
Sorry. So the developer of the property was looking to do a bond reduction. I only received TEC's letter like at 4:30 today, so I didn't really have time to approve. The board didn't get it until you got your meeting packet handed to you right now, and the applicant also didn't get it, obviously, until tonight, too. It would be my
So-
recommendation to just continue until the next
Okay.
meeting, till we have more time to review.
Okay, let's
So we-
continue that to the next meeting.
Make a motion to,
It's just an agenda item, we just slide it.
what's that, just slide it?
Just slide that one over to that one there. And then 150 Center Street, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, so as a lot of the board members know, because you get relentless emails from me regarding this.
Love 'em.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
What was it?
Said, thanks, Andy.
Oh, you're welcome. So as the town know, or as you guys know, we applied last round for a community one-stop grant through Mass Development for a feasibility study for 150 Center Street. A couple weeks ago, we had our first public engagement session. It went well. We got a lot of feedback. Received a lot of feedback that it wasn't well enough advertised, which totally we need to do better. So part of my reason for putting this on the agenda is just to talk about it a little bit. It's going really well. A survey is being done of the property. Wetlands delineations are being done on the property. Evaluations regarding access to the site are being done. Development standards are being looked into as far as, ensuring our aquifer would be protected. Market analyses are being done, which is really interesting, showing what the market could handle in a location like this, whether it be, continued open space, whether it be recreation facilities or, a Linfield Market type place. But anyway, our tentative next date for our next public meeting would be on July 27th. Would be here in hybrid. Just wanted to let you guys know now, and also whoever's watching, that is like the tentative date right now. At the end of this week, early next week, we will be posting on our website, kind of a website within a website, describing the property, kind of showing what's been done, and it will also come with a survey. So keep an eye on the website for that. It's a really cool story map thing that has interactive maps and stuff. But yeah, so if anyone has any questions about that, let me know.
Okay.
on the 27th?
Sorry?
Do you have a time on the 27th?
We did the most recent one at 6?
Was it 7, 6:30?
6:30 or 7?
6:30 or 7, something along those lines. This one, though, will be
Coffee and donuts.
there's potential. This one, though, will be a hybrid meeting.
Pay for it, I don't care.
So it'll be Zoom and in person.
Did we get the slide deck from that past?
Yes, it is posted on the website under our grants and projects. Under our grants and projects, I am panic checking right now because I think I put it up.
Okay.
But yes, if it's not there, it will be there.
There was some good details in that slide
Tomorrow.
deck, so,
Yeah, if
if you want to look, that definitely had some good details about the town.
Definitely.
Yeah, and if anyone, again, has any questions about it, feel free to shoot me an email. It is just you can find me, I'm all over the website. But yes, it is the very first thing, if you go under grants and projects, the slide deck that they had presented at the meeting.
Thanks.
You're gonna remind us again.
Oh, you'll be getting a plethora of emails, don't you worry.
Maybe
And
we
if-
should, I don't know what they're doing on the website. Again, this is to distinguish, so you can probably say it's out there. Maybe do some Facebook posts about it to bring them to the website.
Yeah.
Maybe have a banner where they can click on it and it brings it right to, I'm not a website guy, but
Yeah, no, we definitely do that with more kind of like trash, like notifications and stuff. But I know, like with our PR company, we'll be doing more. It was posted on our Facebook, but we can get it out there earlier, get it on the flash and sign out front. We're gonna make sure we do a better job moving forward.
like an Instagram.
Yes, that I believe was also done. But again, it can always be done better. So that
Okay.
was just a little update on that.
Next?
Next, so we are, as we mentioned a couple times tonight, getting our new comprehensive master plan done. The planning board is responsible for appointing the steering committee for the comprehensive master plan. And those appointments are up at the end of this month. So we just need to make votes to reappoint those who are on the board and want to be reappointed.
Make a motion to reappoint John and Wally
Second.
as the steering.
All in
That was quick.
We have to do all of them, so including, Mike Dempsey, so we have that list at the very back. Sorry, it's the very last list, or the very last page of your packet. I put a little list together.
Yeah.
Looks good to me.
Yep.
Okay, so DJ, you had motion to reappoint? And then, I'm sorry, I didn't hear who had seconded that. Wally, okay, thank you. All was in favor, okay. And then just another note on that, again, so many emails from me. At the point we're at with the comprehensive master plan, we have a really good working draft going. It was sent out to various boards and committees, so obviously the master plan steering committee, planning board, zoning board, conservation commission, board of selectmen, all department heads, kind of the more like working end of this, the working for the town end of the spectrum, had a chance to review it. The consultants are taking that feedback, working that into the draft, and then from there, it is going to go out to a public comment portion. The comment is going to be more based on a survey just for ease purposes. It'll be easier for the consultants to work with the data that way. Another next step that we're planning on doing is also doing a joint meeting between the planning board and the board of selectmen for the consultants to present the master plan. Based on statute, the planning board is the entity that approves the master plan, but obviously it's good that if the board of selectmen kind of endorse it as well, so a joint public meeting, I think will accomplish that in the most, streamlined way. So a date for that has been set. Obviously, the summer is the summer, but just keep an eye out on those things. Again, when it goes out for public comment with that survey, I'm going to send it out to everyone again. So keep a lookout for that.
I think we'd be happy to have your selectmen join our meeting, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Got one here.
Okay.
Bring the rest of them in.
Oh, wait. And then it is-
Reorganization of the board. Talk to us, Annie.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do we have to, are we all set with the master plan?
We are, sorry, I was just gonna
So we're
say,
gonna
and
do
it's
a-
that time of year for the reorganization.
Yep.
Okay.
How do you guys want to organize?
All right.
We good the same, or?
Organize, so.
I'd like to have something to eat. Can we go this late?
Yeah, yeah.
Pizzas or whatever?
Yeah, can we reach a mid-session snack?
Okay, so,
I'll move to nominate Bradley Eagles as chair.
Unless anybody else wants it.
John said he did.
yeah,
Okay, John.
Thunderdome.
I second that.
I don't know if Annie wants this.
Oh, stop it.
I think we,
Unless Wally, you want to step over Brad.
I did that for 27 years, so,
So you gonna stick with Vice?
as chair, vice is fine with me.
You sure?
Yeah,
So we have a motion on Brad
Yes, we need,
and a second.
Yep.
So-
Yep.
And a third.
Oh, and a third, yes. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Jason?
Make a motion to nominate Wally Sorensen as the vice chair.
Absolutely.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Yep, thank you, men.
Thank you.
And Madam Planner.
aw, how
good service.
kind.
And members of our community.
Okay, any other update?
No other updates. As far as town planner updates, the 150 Center Street and the master plan are the two largest items we got going on right now. All ongoing sites are going well, moving along really well. And then just to, because that's really it. The only other thing for items not reasonably anticipated at the time of posting, last meeting we signed the Mylar for 833 Salem Street. It was missing the registry block, so we just have to re-sign it. So
Okay.
it now has the registry block.
That's it?
And that is,
I had the it was missing the language also. It said in accordance with the registry.
So, motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can see after.
So motion.
Was this written?
Second?
Second.
Hold on. Was that
What?
discussed in the last Barry's meeting?
did we forget
I said,
something?
I just noticed this in our packet. I know we've kind of moved past it, but I wanted to call it out because it's a letter from one of our residents. Was
Oh.
that read at one of our past meetings based on the meeting, the
Yes.
street?
This was received after, so this is the first meeting you've had with this letter in your meeting packet.
Okay. I didn't know if, I mean, I noticed it, and I don't know if we have to read it to the public or
Well, we
let them know
can,
that.
at the next meeting, we can read it into the record,
Okay.
because we have them back. Okay,
It's,
Did
in
we
the big
second that?
packet, it's the very end.
yeah, it's from,
It's
from Becky.
an email from a resident, it's right after we talked about the criteria.
Okay,
I'll have the last page there. I just didn't want it to, I didn't want it to be
so we had a
missed.
motion,
She took the time to write it, I just didn't want it to be
Yeah.
missed, and
Oh, good call.
I only read the first couple paragraphs, but, I mean, we were talking, it is a great idea, but easier, that's an easier said than done, and maybe someday. That's all, I just wanted you guys to see
Okay.
it, I don't know if you guys have noticed.
all right, so, can we just bring that up again at the, we'll read it into the record,
On the 20th.
at the next meeting, but,
Can you make a note to do that at the next meeting?
yeah,
Please.
and we do have receipt of it, so, all right.
Thank you.
And I think we had a motion and a second on the floor,
We did.
okay? Call the vote?
Oh, call a vote, please.
Aye.
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 Okay.
Motion passes.
All right, so the meeting adjourned, and thank you all for watching at home.
Thank you.